Yeah, we'll continue with question 13. Here they said, for some months, the price of petrol gas decreased significantly. How would this affect a delivery firm that delivers goods for other firms using petrol-powered vehicle? So that means the price for petrol gas decreases. That what happens to the demand for petrol gas? The demand for petrol gas will increase based on the law of demand, which says the higher the price, the lower the price, the higher the quantity demanded, and the lower the price, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. That's an inverse relationship. So let's check now. It said, how would this affect a delivery firm that delivers goods for other firms using petrol gas powered vehicle? Average fixed cost will decrease. You know what average fixed cost is now? AFC. AFC is FC divided by output. Okay, is it going to decrease? We check. So B, profit will decrease. Total fixed cost will decrease. Your total fixed cost is CC is equals to FC plus VC. Okay, and variable cost, that's the cost of variable costs are costs that changes as output changes. So which one is the answer? So gas is a variable cost. So because gas is a variable cost, if the cost of the price for gas reduces, that means variable cost will decrease. So the answer is D. So number 13 is D, okay? Then we'll go to 14. Or question 14. So the size of a domestic car industry in Japan has enabled Japanese car producers to be more price competitive than rival car producers. What's an explanation for this? So a domestic car industry in Japan has enabled Japanese car producers to be more price competitive. So if they are price competitive, what does that imply? It means they are able to sell to customers abroad at a cheaper price. That's why they are internationally price competitive, okay? So what would have allowed them to be internationally competitive? One, economies of scale are present in the Japanese car industry. Managerial problems exist in the Japanese car industry. Productivity is low in Japan. The Japanese car industry is very labor intensive. So before we go into A, hold on, let me just stop there. So here they said the size of the domestic car industry in Japan has enabled Japanese car producers to be more price competitive than rival car producers. What's an explanation for this? Managerial problem exists in the Japanese car industry. If there's managerial problem, that is diseconomies of scale. So it can be the answer. So B is not the answer. If productivity is low, then there's no point there's no point being competitive. So if your production is low, that means you cannot export. And D, they said the Japanese car industry is very labor intensive. If it is labor intensive, then how will it be able to compete with rival companies that are capital intensive? So the answer is A, economies of scale exist. And what is economies of scale? That means a cost advantage in the course of expansion. So because there's a cost advantage, prices will fall. So that would make the Japanese car industry be highly competitive against competitors. So the answer is A, 14. Then question 15. So what is the major advantage? So what is the major advantage of horizontal merger compared with conglomerate merger? Horizontal integration. This is when two or more firms come together at the same stage of production. Then when we talk about conglomerate, it means diversification. So what is the advantage of having horizontal merger compared to conglomerate? Here they said it causes more motivation for the workers. It gains financial economies of scale with cheaper borrowing from banks. See, it leads to diversification, making the firm less vulnerable. Diversification will come with conglomerate merger or conglomerate integration. So C is not the answer. It gains financial economies of scale with cheaper borrowing from bank. No. There's no way you could borrow money from bank. It causes more motivation for the workforce. No, motivation for the workforce, no, because workers will be made redundant. In the course of margin, then at the same level of production, workers will become redundant. So if workers are redundant or workers feel that they might be redundant, that would be demotivating. So A is not the answer. Then D, they said it reduces competition and increase the merged firm's market share. Yes, because what it means in merger, it means that firm A and firm B are coming together, and at the same time, it reduces the competitors in the market. So if competitors in the market reduces, it increases your market share. So it reduces competition in the market and it increases the market share. So the answer is D, 15. Question 16. They say recession is where there are 2 consecutive quarters of what? Deflation? No. Deflation is a persistent fall in the price of goods and services. Falling GDP? Yes. The GDP has fallen 2 consecutive quarters. That means in 6 months in a row. Rising prices? No. Rising unemployment? No. So the answer is B. 16 is B. Question 17. An economy is operating with all resources fully employed. If all resources are fully employed, which would be an outcome of a significant increase in government expenditure? What is government expenditure? Government spending. So how will government spending occur if the resources are fully employed? They said deflation, no? Demand pull inflation. Yes. Why is it demand pull inflation? When all resources are fully employed, it means everyone has a job. And if everyone has a job, it means the income level will increase. And if the income level increases, the demand for goods and services in that economy will increase. As a result of that, it might lead to demand pull inflation. That is B, 17. Question 18. They said, what causes economic growth? And when we talk about economic growth, we're talking about increase in the GDP. So what would lead to an increase in GDP? 1, availability of more resources. Let's check B, higher imports of consumer goods. If a country continues to import consumer goods, that means the country is not doing well. That means there will be deficit in the budget of the country or the economy. So it's not economic growth. Higher unemployment. If there's unemployment in the economy, it will not lead to economic growth. Rather, it will lead to decline. D, low investment. And when there's lower investment in an economy, that means there's no expansion. That means new businesses are not setting up. And that would not lead to economic growth. So high investment will increase output. So how will an economy grow? An economy will grow if there are availability of what? More resources. So the answer is A, 18. Question 19. So the table shows the government received from taxation. What is taxation? Taxation is what the levy on tax is paid by as a result of production or consumption. So if there's taxes or taxation, let's check what they say here. They said, yes, they said, so for question 19, here they said, the table shows the government receipt from taxation. We have air passenger duty, we have tax on firm's profit, import duty, income tax, inheritance tax, sales tax, which is VAT, value-added tax. So they said, what is the total amount of revenue raised by indirect taxes? When we talk about indirect taxes, we're talking about taxes charged on basically consumption. So here we have air passenger duty, which is an indirect tax, that's 10 million. Tax on firm's profit, that's a direct tax, which is corporation tax, so it is not part of it. Import duty. For import duty, it is also an indirect tax, that's 75 million, making 85 million. Then we have income tax is a direct tax, inheritance tax is a direct tax. So the other tax we have is the value-added tax, which is taxes on consumption, which is an indirect tax. So that's 300 million plus 75 million plus 100 million. That's 385 million. So the answer is C. Number 19 is C. 385 million. Then we'll go to question 20. For question 20, they said, which statement about supply side policy is correct? Which statement about supply side policy is correct? When you talk about supply side policy, it means it aims at increasing the output of a country. So these are government policies that will increase the output of the country. So for supply side policy, these are policies that are aimed at increasing the output of a country. So let's see what the options are. They say, which statement about supply side policy is correct? One, it aims to increase the productive potential of the economy. It aims to increase total demand in the economy. It involves changes in the equilibrium foreign exchange rate. It involves changes in the rate of interest. So to increase the potential of a country, we said supply side policy helps to do what? To increase the output of a country. So to increase the output of a country, the answer is A. It aims to increase the productive potential of the economy, which is the same as increasing the output of the economy. So question 20 is A. 21, it said. 21, they said, why is weighing used in the consumer price index? A, to ensure that all items in the index are treated equally, to ensure that all price changes are included in the index, no. To ensure that the index includes changes in the quantity consumed, no. To ensure that the index reflects the spending pattern of consumer, no. We use weighing so that all items in the index are treated equally. So the answer is A, 21. No, 21, wait, the answer. We use the index. We use the index. No. To ensure that the index reflects the spending pattern of consumers, the answer is D. To ensure that the index reflects the spending patterns of consumers, D. Yeah. 21 is D. Go to question 22. It said 22 is not okay. They said due to an issue with question 22, the question has been removed, so we don't have question 22. So go to question 23. Which combination of policy measures is most likely to increase the level of employment? So let's see how the level of employment can be increased in an economy. One, decrease general taxation and decrease rate of interest. If taxation decreases, for example, the corporation tax, if corporation tax reduces, the answer is A anyway. If the corporation tax reduces, what does that imply? It means profit for firms will increase, and that could motivate them to invest further. And in the course of investing further, they might employ more workers. For B, decrease. Yeah, so for question 23, they said, which combination of policy measures is most likely to increase the level of employment? They said decrease general taxation and decrease the rate of interest. Decrease general taxation and increase the rate of interest. Increasing the rate of interest will not, it's not good for the economy. People will not be able to borrow. That means borrow will be expensive. So firms will not want to borrow. That cannot increase the level of employment. Decrease the rate of interest. Decrease the rate of interest. So for question 23, they said, which combination of policy measures is most likely to increase the level of employment? If an economy has to increase its employment, so there are two things it has to do here, which is to reduce taxation and to reduce the rate of interest. Reducing taxation, for example, when government reduces taxation of profit, that means corporation tax, firms' profit will increase. As a result of that, they might want to invest more. Companies from abroad might really want to invest. Multinational companies might want to seize the opportunity of tax reduction to come and invest in that country. So with that, employment opportunity will arise as a result of that. Two, interest rate. If the rate of interest falls, that means the price borrowers have to pay reduces. As a result of that, a lot of people will be able to borrow. A lot of firms will be able to borrow to expand their business. So those two things, reduction in taxation, reduction in interest rates, would increase employment opportunity in an economy. So the answer is A, 23. For 24. They said, what is a certain cause of absolute poverty? When you talk about absolute poverty, it means that people don't have the ability to even, consume the basic needs. So let's see, growing old, B, insufficient income for basic needs, C, lack of good health, D, many dependents in the family. Like I told you, lack of basic needs. So insufficient income for basic needs is the It's an absolute poverty. So 24 is A. 24 is B, sorry, 24 is B, yes. 25. It said the birth rate in a country is higher than the death rate. What might prevent? Said the birth rate of in a country is higher than the death rate. What might prevent the country's population from rising? If the birth rate is higher than the death rate, it means that there are the number of births in a country increases more than the number of deaths in the country. What will prevent the country's population from rising? So if this happens, what will make the population of that country not to increase? Immigration is greater than immigration. The birth rate is falling. No. The country's medical care improves. If the country's medical health care improves, that means the number of people living will increase. The number of people living in the country will, the number of people living, the life expectancy in that country will rise. So that means population might increase. The death rate is rising now. So immigration is greater than immigration. That means a lot of people leaving the country than a lot of people coming in. So the answer is A, 25. So if people are leaving the country more than people coming into the country, the population will not rise. 26. The table shows the statistics for 4 countries A to D. Which country has the lowest standard of living? When we talk about the standard of living, we're talking about the GDP per head, we're talking about the life expectancy, we're talking about the growth rate within that country. So let's check. Country A has 1.9% of the growth rate, population density of 19 per square kilometer. The life expectancy is 46, so that couldn't be. The GDP per head is 190, so this one is low. Check. Let's check. Here the GDP per head is 190. The life expectancy is the lowest standard. So the highest standard here, with the highest standard, let's see, the highest standard in this country could be based on the GDP per capita, which is 1,007. Here we have the life expectancy here is 44, which is the lowest. It also has one of the lowest GDP per capita. It has the highest population density, which is not good enough. And the average annual growth rate in population is 4.2. So based on this analysis, the country that has the lowest living standard is country D, 2060. Go to 27. Why can specialization cause economic growth? Why can specialization cause economic growth? What is specialization? Specialization means a country concentrates in what it knows how to produce. So how can this become economic growth? Here they say specialization can allow a country to produce many different goods and services. No, that is not specialization. Specialization can lead to a reduction in average cost of production. Yes. Specialization can mean that firms in a country will face diseconomies of scale. No. Specialization can reduce a country's need to depend on other countries. No, specialization will allow you to be able to produce yours, what you know how to produce, and depend on other countries for what you cannot produce. So it is not D. So the answer is B. Specialization can lead to a reduction in the average cost of production. 27 is B. 28. So the diagram shows China's trade with Brazil for 2 years. China's exports, year 1, year 2. China's imports, year 1, year 2. So what happens to China's trade balance with Brazil between year 1 and year 2? Year 1, imports in year 1. In year 1, we have in year 1, the export in year 1 exceeds the imports. But in year 2, the import exceeds the export. So it's moved from surplus to deficit, D, because export exceeds imports. Import exceeds export in year 2. So that means, and when import exceeds export, it will lead to balance of trade deficit. So the answer is D, 28, D. 29. Why do some governments limit the operations of multinational companies within their domestic economy? MNCs contribute to technological advances. If they contribute to technological advances, governments should will allow them to come into the country. MNCs decrease a country's unemployment rate. Yes, that's an advantage. So government would not stop them because of that. MNCs gain profit which are transferred out of the country. That is one of the problems of multinational companies. They make profit in the country and they transfer it to the head office in another country. So that's the problem. Let's check the last one. They say MNCs increase the country's current account surplus. So if MNCs increase the current account surplus of the country, that's an advantage. So A is an advantage, B is an advantage, D is an advantage. So the answer is C. They transfer all the money made into their own country. So 29 is C. Question 30. Question 30 says, what is an immediate effect of a fall in its foreign exchange rate? What is the foreign exchange rate? Foreign exchange rate is the price of a currency in terms of other currencies. So what's an immediate effect of a country's fall? If a country's foreign exchange rate falls, what is the immediate effect? A fall in the money supply? No. An increase in purchasing power? No. Cheaper imports? No. Imports becomes expensive because your currency would not be able to buy enough of other currencies. More competitive export? Yes, because the prices of your goods becomes cheaper for foreign customers. Because your foreign exchange has fallen, it means that foreign currencies will buy a lot of your currency, which makes exports to be more competitive for your business, for your country. So more competitive exports, that's D. So question 30 is D. So that's all about paper 1, which I am done with. So I'm going to send it right away. Thank you.